All right, as like I was saying, a test cross is a cross between an organism with an unknown genotype and an organism with a recessive phenotype. What that means is that if you have an organism that you can't tell if it's homozygous dominant or heterozygous, then the way you can figure it out is by crossbreeding it with a homozygous recessive parent, which you can see is lowercase f crossed with the heterozygous parent here. You can see that there's a capital F and a lowercase f, so it's purple. But again, in some situations you won't know, so this will be a good way to test it. So you'll see that half of the offspring will be white if the parent is heterozygous, going with the control here, which is the homozygous recessive parent, the white flower. Can anybody tell me what this would look like, this Punnett square, if this parent was homozygous dominant and purple? That's right. Yeah, the whole thing would be heterozygous. There was an example above about that. And every one of them would be uppercase f, lowercase f. You see these two are, the reason these two are lowercase f is because this one here is lowercase f. So that's how you'd know. You do this test cross to figure it out. And if half the offspring are white, in this instance, you know that the parent that you weren't sure about was heterozygous. And there you go. Now, this is taking it a step further. It's looking at two traits. It's called a dihybrid cross. Now, a lot of times this could be like hair color and hair length. Those two things will be reflected in a Punnett square. It's a bigger Punnett square, 16 spots. Same kind of deal with the ratio and the proportions, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. This is inspired by Mendel. His dihybrid cross with heterozygous plants yielded a 9:33:1 phenotypic ratio, which I'll show you that in a second. The dihybrid crosses, it led to his second law, which was the law of independent assortment, which in this case is basically referring to the two different alleles here, which are color and shape of the peas here. And the law of independent assortment states that allele pairs separate independently of each other during meiosis. So in this case, as you can see, there is the color and then the shape here. And they are separate. As you can see, the different combos dictate different phenotypes here. So, as you can see, in terms of the phenotype ratio, we do have that 9:33:1 that we have up here. We have 9, round, and yellow. Now, genotype, you can see they're all different pretty much. Well, these four are actually the same. And these are the same, these are the same, and that's the same actually. Well, sorry, this is different, these are the same, etc. But either way, they are all round and yellow, 9 of them. Now you can see 3 of them are yellow still, but they aren't as round, they're like a little wrinkly. That's the 3 there. Then you see 3 here are green, that's homozygous recessive on the yellow coloring, because you can see the yellow is dominant and the round is dominant. So in this case, you see that these 4 actually are all homozygous recessive for the coloring. But these 3 have the round dominant allele. These 2 are heterozygous net, and this is homozygous dominant. And only this one here, which is the one that's up here, this one is green. That's the homozygous recessive color and homozygous recessive shape. These guys also have that homozygous recessive shape. You can see that. So that determines that they're a little wrinklier, not as round, and again, this one's green. So dihybrid cross involves 2 traits, shows you all the different combos, but same kind of idea, just a little more complicated. You'll see an example of that on the homework I'll have you fill out, as well as a lot of different ones of just, one of those single traits. We kind of discussed this a little bit before, talking about like how, there's 1 to 2 to 1. And so now we're going to look at it as far as percentages go. Probability is the likelihood that something will happen. Like 25% will be recessive gene, 25% will be, or homozygous recessive, 25% will be homozygous dominant, 50% will be heterozygous. It predicts the number of occurrences. It's not an exact number, even though, you know, you have a really good idea of it. And then the probability is the number of ways a specific event can occur over the number of total possible outcomes. Now that is basically like that one P that was green and not round. That was the one event, that was one way that that specific event can occur over a total of 16 different outcomes. So that would be 1 over 16 is a probability of that P being green and small and not round. Meanwhile, there was 9 round yellow P's, so there was a 9 out of 16 because we're using that same 4x4 table Punnett square there to determine it. So we see that there's 9. I will go back real quick. There were 9 out of the total 16 that were yellow and round. So probability applies to random events such as meiosis and fertilization, kind of what we're talking about here as far as cells and getting the alleles from your parents. And this is just one more example. We already talked about dogs, we talked about flowers, talked about peas, and now we're talking about coins. And this kind of probability here, you see there's 2 coins. If you were to flip both of them, the percentage, the probability that you'd get 1 heads and 1 tail is 2 out of 4, because there's 2 here. So it'd be 2 out of 4, 2 out of 4, 50% probability. The chance of getting 2 heads is 1 out of 4, because this guy has 2 tails. 1 out of 4, so 1 out of 4 is 25% of the probability. Same with the tails. 1 out of 4, 25% chance of getting 2 tails. So on the homework, I will have you guys fill out those Punnett squares and answer some questions that you'll learn from the Punnett squares and from the information given. And let me show you that assignment real quick. We'll go over that real quickly here. Oh, there we go. So I'll have you guys work on this. It's the Punnett square practice worksheet for each of the genotypes. We'll have you figure out what color they are based on whether they're homozygous dominant, heterozygous, homozygous recessive, etc. I'll have you fill out the colors there, or rather fill out the phenotype there. Here we got hairy knuckles, and there we got tails. So fill that out. We'll go over it in class tomorrow, and we'll see how well you guys understand this. And that's everything. Thank you guys for coming here. If you have any questions, there will be a section on your homework to include that, and we could definitely go over this a little bit more tomorrow. And shoot me a message now if there's anything. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow in class. Thank you so much.